Hey fellow YouTubers, Roland Martin here with another exciting YouTube adventure. And you know, I get a lot of response and a lot of requests for just basic Senko fishing. How do you fish the Senko? How's the best way to fish a plastic worm, or in this case a Senko? Let's first of all talk about the Senko. What the Senko is my favorite Senko is a 5-inch Senko, and this is the this isn't the 297 green pumpkin, which is another my favorite. This is the watermelon red, which is another really great color. It's Yamamoto's second most popular color, the watermelon red. The green pumpkin 297 is the #1 color from Connecticut to California and all through Europe and Japan and everywhere else. The 297 green pumpkin is the #1 color, but this is the #2 color, and this is the watermelon red. Okay. So let's talk about the complement, what we're going to do here. I'm going to use a basic 6.5 foot rod, my favorite. It's a medium heavy action. It's in fact, I think it's 7 foot. Let me just look real quick. No, it's 6.6. It's a 6.6 rod. And I'm coupling it up with I got some 50-pound braid on here, and it's a little heavy. I don't need a 50-pound braid, but that's all right. That's not the main deal. The main deal is that I have a fluorocarbon leader on here. You notice that uni knot I have? That's a double uni. And it's to a leader, fluorocarbon leader. On the end of that, I have an 1/8 ounce slip weight, and I have a 4/0 EWG Gamakatsu hook. Okay, that's my basic complement. I fish all over the country, everywhere in the country, and foreign countries as well, with this complement. This is like the #1 deal. Okay, and basically worm fishing, a lot of it is ambush point fishing. See, a bass is going to seek an ambush point. Well, it's a bright sunny day today. He doesn't have eyelids. He doesn't have sunglasses either. He doesn't have a visor or his hat, so he just can't swim around in shallow water. He likes to hide underneath a lily pad or hide underneath that willow bush right there, or get deep enough. The other thing is they can get deep enough out in the middle of the 10 or 12 feet of water where the light doesn't bother them so much because it's filtered out through the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make good, accurate casts. And then let me explain a good accurate cast. Okay, that willow bush is a good ambush point, and I'm just going to throw it right by the willow bush, right to this. Okay, it's right at the edge of the willow bush. I'm going to feed it line. I'm going to let it get out there all the way to the bottom. It's probably 5 or 6 feet deep right there by the willow bush. Okay, I'm just going to let it soak a while. I'm going to pick my rod up just a little teeny bit. Now I'm a line watcher. I'm watching the line, and I can see if it twitches or moves or anything like that. I'm watching the line. I'm also feeling for it. Now, the reason why I have braid on here, the simple reason why I have braid is it's the most sensitive. I can feel the small little tick of a bass sucking on that worm really, really well. So I'm just inching it along the bottom. I'm not moving it very much. It's right there on the shade of that willow bush, and I'm just kind of inching it along. Well, he hadn't hit it. It's probably 2 or 3 feet out by now, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it away from the ambush point. In other words, when you throw to the good target, you got a 3 or 4 foot area that you work, and then that's like it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and reel it in. Okay, I'm gonna reel it in. Look at my worm. Now there's a couple things I do to this worm. #1, I add a Mega Strike scent to it. #2, I might add a tail enhancer. I might take the spike it deal, and I might dip the tail. That's a couple things I could do. Okay, let's throw to the worms again. Okay, see, there's some lilies just on the left side of that bush. There's lilies, so I'm going to throw right by the lilies and by the bush. Oh, threw a little bit too far. But that's right, I wiggled it out. That's a beautiful thing about a weedless worm. You can make kind of a crummy cast. You can pull it through the cover and brush and drop it right where you want it. Okay, now let's just feel for the strike. I lift it up real slow and easy. I'm just going real slow and easy now. Yeah. No, nothing hit it. Wait a minute. I might have one. There he got. Oh, man, he was running with it. And guess what he did? He got my whole worm. He got the entire worm. Now that is probably a small fish. Small fish usually do that. They grab it, a really nice big fish, most likely, and I kind of think that because I hate to think I lost a big fish. The big fish usually grab it by the head. That's kind of their target. They kind of grab it up here. The small fish will sometimes just grab it back here. And I guess that's what happened because it pulled the worm off the hook. Okay, let's try it again. Same spot. Get this thing down here like this. Same spot again. Right by those lilies, right by the edge of the willows. So let it sink to the bottom. Be patient. Remember that braid is so sensitive. You can feel stuff happen real easy. Now I got a completely slack line, so I can't feel much anything right now. Pull it up just a little bit. No. 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 Well, this time I'm going to throw to the left of the bush. There's a little bit of shade back there, and there's a, looks like a pretty good spot. So if that's not, is that an alligator back there? I can't see if that's my alligator hiding back there or not. But right there. Okay, I'm just right off the bank. I'm in that little slot. I'm gonna, there's one. Okay, oh, a little baby one. Hey, but that's all right. I did everything the way you're supposed to do it. That was just a little nothing fish. That doesn't make any difference. But I did it exactly the way I should have done it. Had it been a big 5-pounder, it'd have been the same thing. I'd have caught him. Again, I had my rod high. And I'll explain a little bit about that. The basic worm fishing, and the number one thing I try to tell everybody is to start with your initial cast. I'm going to throw down this way just to show, to demonstrate. I'm going to throw those lilies right there. I'm going to throw it down there, and I'm going to feed out line, make sure it gets to the bottom. Okay. Now watch my rod. My rod, when I'm in position, I never drop my rod more than 45 degrees. That's 45 right there, and I work it to 90. I work it this way, all the way up here. Now I can feel the most when the heat bites it and the sensitive braided line, I can feel it the most right here. I can feel it really good right there. I can feel it really good right there. But here's the problem. When you drop it below 45 and you drop it down to 10 or 15 degrees, you can't feel the fish. He can feel you. So what you want to do is keep your rod up high, and you can feel the best. But there's a strike, I think. Wait a minute. Yep, it's a strike right there. Oh, no. He got my daggone worm again. Got my worm again. Bunch of little ones in here. Hey, but at least it's showing me. There's also, besides just bass in here, there are Oscars from the Miami aquariums. They get in these drainage ditches and get into this area. There are Mayan cichlids, which is like a bluegill looking thing. It's like a big bluegill. They're all over the place. There's garfish that peck and grab worms. There's mudfish. There's about every kind of fish. Okay, let's try another cast. Throw it back in those pads right there. Right there, defeated line. Again, we were talking about holding the rod. What's the best position to hold a rod? You hold the rod high from 45 to 90 just strictly because now you can feel better than he can feel you. You want to be able to feel the bottom. You want to work the worm slow. When you're looking at an ambush point like a little patch of lilies, I'm just want to work that foot or so right around there, real slow and easy. Ambush point. I'm not really working open water. I'm not, trying to cover a lot of water. I'm just trying to cover that area right around those lily pads. Little one, not much size to him, but I reach down and set the hook just right, but skinny. Hey, it's a bass. It's a bass. Now, when I hook a worm, this is a 4-aught EWG hook. I like to come through the head of the worm about a half an inch, turn that up on the shank and turn it and have it pull up on that collar so that little shoulder sticks out. Then I lay the worm on there and I see where it goes through. It goes through right here, and you can come up and skin hook it right there if you want. And that makes for a really good straight worm. And a straight worm is the deal. And I could peg the weight. That's another thing I could do. If the wind were blowing a little bit more, I didn't peg the weight today. That's one thing I often do. To be honest with you, a reason why I didn't peg the weight was I left my little bobber stops at home. That's the main reason why I didn't peg the weight. I would have pegged the weight if it weren't for that. Now, before I go any farther, I'm going to show you something about color. I do this a lot, fooling with colors. I use the Spike It products like this here, and what I have is I have a bunch of different colors right here. Now here's a lot of times I'll use the regular chartreuse color, but you know, I've been experimenting with a lot of stuff. Here's a red, a dip and glow, and it's a red tail. Look at this. I just want to show you. Sometimes this makes a tremendous difference. And what I'll do is I'll dip that worm in this a little bit of red. Hey, we'll see what happens. It's fun to play with these colors. Sometimes you come up with something that really works really good. Anyway, I'm going to play with it. I'm just going to experiment. Okay, lily pad time. Right in the lily pad. Watch that line. Watch that line. Hold the rod up high. Nothing so far. I'm coming right through that hole. I feel something pecking it right there. It doesn't feel very big, but it was a bass. Just wasn't very big. But at least I'm showing you the proper technique. And that's the whole thing about worm fishing. So many people are just don't get the worm. They don't hold the rods right. They just don't do it right. And so it's so important to have the right tackle, number one, which I have the right tackle, the right rod, which is a 6.5 foot medium heavy action favorite rod, have a braided line like I have that really set the hook, and then in this case I have a fluorocarbon leader to help. This particular lake, you have a thing called cannibalism. And the really big bass eat these little ones, eat the actual smaller bass. So it's a cannibalistic society. A brother and sister one might just grow up eating his brothers and sisters and be a big 8-pound bass, and the other ones are 4 or 5 years old and they're a 2-pound bass because they don't eat but little stuff. There's a fish right there. Drop it down. Oh. Yep. Little fish. I dropped it down to him. He wasn't big enough. I guarantee if I fish long enough and hard enough on this lake, I'll catch a big one. There are some big ones in here. The biggest one, we were fishing here last year, my cameraman Tyler South, and we were worm fishing, and we'd caught just small fish all day, and I said, well, it's over with, the film's over with. He started fishing over in that other shoreline. He caught an 11.25 pound bass after we'd put the cameras away. And I was doing a deal on worm fishing like I'm doing today, and I was just showing everybody how to worm fish. And I'd caught a number of medium-sized bass. But boy, all of a sudden, he catches the biggest bass he's ever caught in his life. Last year, right over there. So that's something to think about. Uh-oh, the gator's right here. Oh my heavens. The gator's trying to get my fish. Woo! Can't have him. Get away, gator. Get away from my feet. Might want feet. He might be hungry for feet. Okay. Make it a little overhand cast. Any kind of cast at all. Just get real accurate right up. See, I've envisioned the thickest part of that little point of grass is where the fish is, and so I'm right there by it. Lift the rod up. He's got it. Set the hook right down. Set the hook right like that. Yeah, I got it. I got him, son. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, son. Now, it was the perfect deal. That's what we're talking about. You're talking about big fish, and I'm talking about how to do it. And that was the perfect complement of a big fish, big old giant monster Florida bass, just as big as can be. And that's what we're talking about, folks. We're talking about a real big fish, and that's what it is. I hope I showed you a few things about big giant fish, because that certainly was the perfect way of doing something. I just did it perfect, and I got to get this thing out of the water before that alligator's coming as fast as he can. Get this big bass up. Alligator streaming at me, and look what I got, folks. I got a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful bass that was just the perfect way of catching them. And this gator just about caught up with us. A big trophy fish. The ABCs of worm fishing. You got to hold your rod right. You got to get away from these alligators that are stalking. He wants my fish. He wants to eat this big old 5-pound plus bass. But I tell you what, folks, I showed you the perfect way of catching a fish. That's the meat and potatoes of bass fishing. I mean, you hold your rod right, you set your hook in the proper hook position, you have that braid, you have that uni knot, you have that fluorocarbon leader. Hey, you can catch monster fish like this too. Listen, I post every couple days on YouTube. I'm gonna let them go. I post on Wednesday in the afternoon and the evening, and I also post on Sunday evenings. So be sure to watch my YouTube videos. I really enjoy doing it. And I really enjoy, I'm an old school teacher. Actually, I taught school in high school. I taught algebra and science and all kinds of stuff. And in the military, I was a rifle range instructor. I was an officer in the Army, and I ran a rifle range. And so I'm used to teaching people things. In fact, as far as teaching, I can teach you how to worm fish better than I can worm fish myself. But the point is, I can teach you. So that's the ABCs of worm fishing. I hope you've enjoyed it. Join us again soon.